So, welcome back to the Michael Edwards Show. I'm so excited today to have my beautiful friend Danielle Amos on as a guest, friend, and colleague. And Danielle is a Mystic Millionaire Money Mentor, would you say?
Yes.
Yes, and she is absolutely extraordinary. Danielle is a protege of Bob Proctor's, and she is one of the greats. She is a true master of what she does. I have worked with many people in this industry, and Danielle stands alone. It just in her dedication to the craft, in her skill, in her embodiment of everything. I've had the pleasure of spending a week with her here, and she just lives the life that she teaches. And I'm so honored to be here with you and to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow, what an introduction. I'm so grateful that we've had this time together and to be on your show.
So let's just dive in and talk about how would you just, I know we hate this question sometimes, but how would you describe what you do to someone who doesn't know?
Well, I focus on mindset, but I think that word can often be confused because people think it's just like surface level thinking, and it's to me it's much deeper than that. It's energy. It's the starting point is our thoughts, which lead to the feeling, which lead to the action. And it really is the, the starting point to all that we experience in life. And so I help people understand the power of their mind and their mental faculties. And when I say mental faculties, it's imagination and intuition and will and your perception. And so it's much deeper than just, like the thoughts that you have every day. And so I help people really understand the power of their minds, the power of their thoughts, and to transform that their thinking to be in alignment with truth, ultimately their truth of who they are, also universal truth, like
Mhm.
the laws of the universe. And I love talking about money because money is really important and it allows us to be more of who we are in the world and make a bigger impact. And because abundance is our birthright, why not have it all? Why not have all the money that's available to us? And then from there, we can do what we want. So if money's not something that's top in your value system, give it away and
Mhm.
attract it to you.
I know you always say, why not have it? Why not have it? It's right there and
That's
it's
right.
so easy. And so I'll never forget because so many people in our industry will focus on money. And there was something I always noticed, but I always felt this different, very clean frequency when you would talk about it. And I remember asking you about that. And you said, well, it's not that it's all about the money. It's just that the money is the easiest thing to measure. And you'll often quote Bob there and say, results don't lie.
Yeah. So, I mean, through this work, our lives get better in all areas, right?
Yeah.
Our relationships are better, we're happier, more confident. However, those things you can't measure.
Yeah.
And so money is a very good measuring stick because we can measure it to the penny. And so, really, as one's awareness grows and we become in alignment with the universe laws and we act with the knowing and in harmony with these laws, life just becomes easier and more abundant. I mean, you've been experiencing that this week, right? And so we can measure how much in alignment with that truth we are through the money that comes into our life. And so it's a great measuring tool because literally to the penny. And so it's not like it's the only way to measure, but it's a really great way to measure because yeah, like I say, the results always tell the truth. So if if the money's not rolling in, we do have seasons, the law of
Yeah.
rhythm. If it's not rolling in and then there's something that's out of alignment with the truth of who you are, the truth of the laws. And
Yeah.
it's just really a great way to look honestly at what's going on inside
Yeah.
because the outside results are just a snapshot of that.
Yeah. So good. And something that was crazy to me that I don't think most people know is that so your program is based on this foundational program that Bob Proctor created, and then you have that within. sort of the work that you do. And of course, you bring in all of your genius to it. But you actually guarantee the results. So what is that guarantee?
Yeah. So our program, it's Bob's program that's been tested on the back end, and it has a lot of like science and, thousands and thousands of people have gone through it. And so as long as you are coachable and you do what we say, and that's kind of like do what I say, but like really
Yeah.
the system works. So as long as you follow the program, then you'll get the results. And so the guarantee that we offer in our community is that you'll make your investment. I guarantee you'll double your investment while you're in the program. If not, I'll pay you double.
Yeah. Wow. Because it's proven.
It's proven and it's a system. Here's the thing, success is a system. And it is what's going on inside. And so what Bob Proctor has figured out, and it took him 10 years to figure it out,
Mhm.
and then an additional, like many, many years. He was studying the mind for 60 years.
Yeah.
And he worked with people that had success, those that applied the principles. And Napoleon Hill says this in Think and Grow Rich. If it's not working for someone, it's not the system. It's not the principles. It's the person applying it.
Right.
And so Bob really studied like the mind and how to reprogram it and the laws. And then what I've come in and done and what's I'm so passionate about is showing people how to actually apply the work. And so that right there, you are not only gaining knowledge, but the application of the knowledge, which makes all the difference. And so because it's a system that's been proven, we can guarantee it.
Yeah.
No problem. No problem. And the only time it doesn't work is because the person isn't actually doing it.
Yeah.
So you got to be honest with yourself. Are you willing to be coachable?
Yeah.
Like, are you willing to follow the system? And you know what? I'm not going to ask you to do something that I wouldn't personally do. It's very simple activities. And here's also the thing. You don't have to be perfect for it to work. Like I scored myself when I was a client. I gave myself 70% of how well I did the program, like how coachable I was at the end,
Mhm.
still tripled my income.
Yeah. And it's amazing. I mean, being here with you, like you're doing all of the things all of the time, right? Like we've been getting up in the morning, you journal, we've meditated together, we've listened to Bob while we've been hot tubbing and doing cold dipping. But like every morning, going back to those basics and those foundations. And it reminds me too of, I trained with Marissa Peer, who's also one of the greats. And there were these incredibly simple systems and principles that if you applied them, that's what got, the extraordinary results. And it actually takes me back to this speech that I love that I often quote. And I think he's a gymnastics coach talks about, I can't remember a gymnastics coach or a CrossFit coach, but talks about virtuosity as the act of doing the common uncommonly well. And he goes on to say that in any domain, the signature of a true master is the degree to which they constantly go back to the basics and that they constantly speak to the basics. And it reminds me of dance. That's what I was like with dance. I would always such detail to the most simple steps, but that was one of the reasons my students would do so well is the level of polish in the basics. And to me, spending time with you, that's what I'm really brought back to. And that's what you bring things back to again and again.
Absolutely. Here's the thing. One of the mistakes that most people make is they'll get and I just got shivers. They achieve some sort of success
Yeah.
through study, through a program like ours. And it could be like, simply studying some of the greats like we talk about. It might be through affirmations or like repetition, meditation, and they achieve success and it's like they forgot what got them there.
Yeah.
And they get lazy. It's a paradigm. It's like the mind really does want them to forget. And so they fall back and they go backwards or like, the success doesn't last. And I'm like, well, let's look at your habits. I'll tell you right away
Yeah.
why you're not successful. And it will be that I didn't think that mattered.
Yeah.
It matters. There's a reason why Bob Proctor woke up. And it doesn't matter what time you wake up. he would wake up at 5, and there's a reason why he studied every single day. Every single day, this material's gotta be in your ears because in the world out there, the masses are living in poverty mindset. They're living in lack mindset. We're programmed to be in fear, like the news, all of that. So you've gotta do something that's literally drowning that out, and if you're not surrounding yourself with people, like most people don't have
Yeah.
each we have, then you've gotta put those earmuffs on. You gotta plug in, and it's gotta be consistent because it's not just about meditating and writing gratitude in the morning, and then you're like,
Back
an
to that.
asshole all
Yeah.
day. Like, that doesn't work.
Yeah. Totally. You're reminding me of one of the things that I've started really saying in my community as well is you are not the exception.
Mm.
And what I mean by that is like we're all being programmed by our environment, right? We're all being programmed by what we interact with. We're exchanging energy with people. Like things go in. If we're doom scrolling, like things are going in. And so, like you're saying, I think that we have this tendency to achieve a level of mastery and we get overconfident. We go, oh, it's fine. I'm just going to indulge in this bit of complaining. Oh, I'm just going to hang out with these people. I'm just going to like get into this. But it's not. It's like you're constantly being programmed and you never, you never transcend your ability to go backwards, I think is what it is. And so we have to stay diligent. We have to stay vigilant. And I think environment, if you'd agree, environment and habits and like, what else do you think? I think those are maybe the two biggest.
Yeah, environment is so important. I mean, like you've even felt it here. Like one of the reasons I love space, like the I really pay attention to how I feel in a space.
Yeah.
And that feeling of like just abundance, wide openness is huge. And then the people that you interact with, I mean, you can't like think about it. You've got a people walking into like a party and everyone's complaining. A person, doesn't matter who you are, you feel it as soon as you walk in.
Yeah.
There's an impact to that.
Yeah.
You're like marinating in that energy.
Yeah.
And so I would say definitely environment, your habits. And it's not like the habits, like it's really is, I would also say like habitual thinking,
Yeah.
like I often say that discipline's really important, but I don't mean like the discipline to certain habits. I mean the discipline of your mind, like what's going on inside.
Yeah. Well, you know what Marissa would always say? Every habit of action is run by a habit of thought. And so it's all about the habit of thought, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. What's one of your favorite stories?
Like in general in this work or
Yeah. Yeah. Whether it's like a client experience or an experience of yours or
well, I have a few, but the one that's really present for me is the one that it's not my story, but the one that we listened to of Bob's about the mom, the single mom that manifested the home. I love this story. And it's a true story. A single mom who was living in a home or apartment and she had 2 kids and she spent $5 a month on rent. And when she was first introduced to this material, she thought it was crazy to like that you could think into what you wanted. And she was told it just like, you know what? Don't believe this material. Instead, let the material prove it to you. So do what I say and let's see what happens. And so she was told to, if she didn't think it was impossible, what would she like? And she said, well, I'd love to have a house. I'd love to have a 3-bedroom home like my kids deserve to each have their own bedroom. And the son was sleeping on the couch and the daughter was sleeping with her. And she's like, I'd love a backyard and so that I could have a dog for my son. He deserves a dog and I'd love to have a window over my kitchen sink so I can look outside. And she like created this whole image of this house that she loved. And then she got kind of depressed because she thought that she couldn't afford it on $500 a month,
yeah.
And she was told, she's like, well, if you didn't think it was impossible, what would you do? And so she's like, well, I'd go look for the house, but like I can't. She's like, but if you didn't think it was impossible, what would you do? And so the woman agreed. She started looking for the house and she found this perfect house, but it was $1,000 a month. It was double. And she's like, I can't have it. See, I don't have enough money. But she said, well, if you didn't think it was impossible, what would you do? And she got intuition, got like a hunch to write the landlord a letter and explain her situation and explain that if he rented the home to her, that she would fix it up. and she drew a picture and a plan. And this gentleman wrote her back or called her and said, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm going to rent the house to you for $500 a month. And we're going to come up with a plan for you to fix. I'll pay for the materials, but for you to fix it up. And you'll have deadlines at each quarter. And she got the house for $500 and she renovated it, did what she said, it continued to be in this material because she manifested that home. And it was like, what's next that I could do
And that's
with
one
my
of the keys.
imaginations.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so she just started asking herself, like, what would I love? What would I love? And she continued within the year. She was the manager of a restaurant. She worked in a fast food chain. And within 2 years, she managed the entire region. And within 3 years, you and I were talking about this. It was 2 or 3 years. She ended up buying that home
Yeah.
from a single mom, $500 a month. Like I have shivers telling the story.
Yeah. I get ships
It's
too.
like, it's this is how it works. It's so simple, but we often complicate it in the world of manifestation. And it's just so simple,
Yeah.
so easy. It gets to be
It
easy.
gets to the,
It really does. And so there's some key questions there. What would I love and how would that feel? I love saying what would I prefer and how would that feel? And then like if I didn't think it was impossible, what would I do?
yeah.
If I didn't think if it was impossible, like who would I connect with?
And something you've taught me that I feel like has really cracked a code is this whole thing of money goes where it's needed. And I think what I've often heard is money goes where it's desired, not where it's needed. But I think it's not the frequency of need from lack. It's like almost like money goes where there's a pathway for it to flow.
Yeah.
And so in that story, it's like the house has to be there
Yeah.
for the money to flow in. And this is so interesting because I often talk about this when I talk about manifestation is everyone has an example where they were determined to get something, right? Like my sister worked for me for a while and she wanted to go on this trip and she was like, you know, oh, my friend's getting married in Australia and like I really want to go and I really want to go and like da da da, but I just don't have the money. There's no making it. I said, well, you can't play with that. You've got to decide that you're going to go. You've just got to decide that you're going to go, and then it'll all happen. And then so she decided that she was going to go, and I can't remember what I got. But she got some rebate or some money from something, and then she got this. She had this realization that she had all of these points racked up on some credit card, and I think there was a bonus or something. And she ended up being that she was able to pay for like the whole trip with the points on her card. And then this money that she got like covered the money she was there. So it didn't even come out of her money. It was like the money that was needed came. And there's so many things like that. And it's almost like I knew that and I forgot it. But then the way you say it, it's reminded me how that's the key.
Yeah, there's a few things here. One is that the money doesn't come until we make the decision. So I often say, like, what can you do that proves that you've made the decision? And I said this to you about coming here because it's not just like I make a mental decision, because how many times in a day do you make a decision and
Yeah.
it doesn't come? So we've got lots of evidence of that not working.
Yeah.
It's like really committed decision. So it's like, your sister booking the hotel,
Yeah.
doing something that represents that you've made that committed decision is important.
Yeah.
And then the money goes where it needs the pathway. And you're right about the needed, not from need being a frequency of lack. So you just gotta like really feel in your body. It's like, 'cause sometimes people are like, oh my gosh, I've got a bill due. And like, let's say they have a bill on Friday and it's Monday and they're like, I have this bill. I need this money. I need this money. It's not coming. It's not coming. And they automatically, like, I'll get emails from clients on a Monday saying I can't pay my monthly thing. And I'm like, what? It's due Friday. And you're telling me Monday?
Yeah.
Like, so it's not a thing. like,
Yeah.
like, so we've got to really be willing to hold the idea and not understand that you're not going to know the how, just like your sister's story.
Yeah.
The how isn't up to you. And in fact, you're never going to guess the how it comes. Are you willing to continuously act as if it's already there
Yeah.
and not spend any time worrying about it? It's challenging because worry is just using your imagination in the wrong direction
Yeah.
against yourself. So can you instead just use that will muscle to focus on the outcome that you want, understanding that you need the money, but it's not from a lack place. It's just like an expectation place.
Yeah.
And that's a totally different frequency when you use the law of assumption that way. It is a law of assumption, right? It's a very clean, I know it's there.
Yeah.
And it's a totally different energy. And in that energy, every single time it comes.
Yeah.
And I've like in our community, I have crazy stories. Like my friend Tina manifested a home. She like way more than what she was approved for with a mortgage. She
Yeah.
said yes to a home, manifested the money for that.
Yeah.
I like tons of stories with this. Myself, this chalet that we're sitting in,
Yeah.
at $500,000 short a week before, and it all came together.
Yeah.
Not the way that I thought.
Wow. Well, okay, it's so funny that you're telling this story about a week, a week being a lot of time because using your laws, well, I was here and there was this thing that I was playing with and I was like, do I invest in this thing? I don't know. And then I said, I used your laws and I said, okay, well, I've got one day before I have to pay for it. And also I'm over having like just enough. So I was like, well, I want double. And if so I'm open to receive double what I need so that it's like overflow. And I had one day and it exactly double came in
And it came.
in one day.
Because you
And
ask
it
and
was
you
so
assume
effortless.
and you just like let go. You
I did let
ask and you
go.
let go. And it's like, so the energy's clean there because it's like, okay, if like when this comes in, assuming when this comes in, I'm paying for this program, for your opportunity. And it's like not again, like, oh my gosh, like I need it or the like house is going to fall down,
Yeah.
It's completely different energy.
Yeah.
It's tricky. It's like we get wobbly because we think that something like we're going to lose it all if it doesn't happen. And
Yeah. That fear brain kicks in.
so
Yeah. And then we engage
dangerous.
the limited mind. Yeah. I talk about this a lot.
Yeah.
Something else that's been really interesting that you talk about a lot and it has really impacted me is this idea of not looking up from where you are, but looking down from where you're going. Can you talk to us about that?
This is huge. I mean, I can't take credit for this. This is Neville Goddard. So
Okay.
power of awareness. And it's super important. So often when we create a goal, we're like, here I am, and this is where I'm going.
Yeah.
And with our resources that we have now, our mindset that we have now, everything that we have, you're here and you're like, how am I going to get there? And we start to think and we're like
Yeah.
looking up there, like as if, oh, okay. But the truth is, on this frequency where you are right now, you'll never know how to get there because if you knew how to get there, you'd already be there. You're not in harmony with there, or you'd be there. And so any ideas that you get on this current frequency will get you more of the same. That's the law of vibration, law of attraction, right? So, and this is a mistake so many of us make. We mastermind at this level, brainstorm at this level with our team. We sit there and we think at this level. More of the same, more of the same, more of the same. And what do? We decide we're going to put in more hours. We're going to work harder.
Yeah.
What if instead you understand that you can't get there from here and instead you go there and you look back at the now from there? So how do you do that? Well, there is a place. It exists on a frequency. So how do you go there? In your mind, through visualization, through becoming emotionally connected to that place, to that goal, to that vision. And you can do that in your mind.
Yeah.
Because here's the truth, energy can't be created or destroyed. It's already happened. It's already a possibility. And so you're literally connecting to that possibility in frequency. So you go there to the best of your ability. You go there and you feel it in your body. It might take you 3 minutes, 30 minutes, 3 hours. Are you willing to discipline yourself to go there in your mind? Now, here's the thing. Most people aren't because their will isn't very strong and they get distracted. They sit there for 30 seconds and go, I can't visualize. It's like, listen, are you willing to sit there until you feel it?
Yeah.
If not, you don't deserve it. And that's what Bob used to say. If you're not willing to do the things, you don't deserve your goal. If you're not willing to get up and study, if you're not willing to dedicate an hour a day to your goal, so here's the thing. So up there is a place. So you connect to that place.
Yeah.
And you literally perceive the world from the end.
Yeah.
and it's a different perception.
Yeah.
It's You'll have different ideas from there.
Yeah.
It's already done. So if it's already done, would you be thinking the thoughts you think now? No.
No.
So you got to course correct that.
Yeah. It's making me think there's this thing that I do when I want to call something in. Um, and I like through meditation create this like grid, like the imagination visualization, but also this like energetic, I don't know how to explain it, but I can feel it. I can feel it when it's complete, and I can feel it when like too much time goes by and it starts to become like incoherent. There's this way I've learned to hold like a coherent field, and the world responds. Like so many things have come to that, and so I'm going to integrate. Like you taught me into that process. Go ahead.
Okay, well, because this is really interesting because I think a lot of people think when they visualize it's almost like a 2D thing, and what you're
Yeah.
describing is not. It's like a 3D. So
Y-
for me, how I do what you're doing is like I make sure all my senses are engaged, like all
Yeah.
my like I really construct a full like it's like I call
Like
it
we're
I
both.
call it a future memory. Like
Yeah.
it's like as real as what I'm living now with you right here,
Yeah.
but it's in this like
Yeah.
different
I
realm.
mean, it's what Dispenza would say. If you can teach your body to remember the future, then it will become more real than the past, right? And that's such a huge part of how we get out of the limited mind, which wants to use the past, the predictable past, as the map to the future, rather than and take that off and then have the future actually be possibilities.
That big mistake when you bring the past into the future. And
Yeah.
so many of us are doing
Well, it's what we're wired to do, right? So again, with what Bob's saying is that you have to be more conscious. Otherwise, you'll just get more of the same.
I read in one of the books that I studied, I was on identity, and it said that psychologists used to think that the past informs the future,
Mm.
but it's actually that the future informs the now. Or no, sorry, the past informs the now. Like
Mhm.
who you're showing up now is because of all your past experiences.
Yeah.
But modern psychology actually says it's your future that informs your now. But the mistake is that most people don't create a future in their mind. So it's their past going to the future
Yeah.
that dictates their now.
I think I'm curious what you think about this because this is something that shows up in my world a lot. What you described in that story, like with that woman getting, a little bit depressed because she created the future and then she's feeling the contrast of not having it. And I do think that that's something people struggle with. What are your, like,
Yeah, I think that that's really understanding. It's kind of ignorant, like that feeling. And what I mean by ignorance is just a lack of knowledge. And so
yeah,
then once you understand the law of gestation, which means that every seed planted has a gestation period, meaning it's the law of gender actually. And what that means is like your goal, your planting in your subconscious mind, which is then planted obviously in universal mind, right? It's two different form that there's a gestation period. So it needs time to grow. So the carrot, if we take like the laws apply to the physical world as well. So if we take a carrot seed and we plant it into the ground, it takes approximately 17 weeks to grow a carrot. We know that because we've watched the carrot. But for you and I, an idea or a goal that's planted in the seed of our minds, because of the paradigms, because of the programming, we don't know the gestation period. We don't know the time. The time needs to elapse. We're not there yet
yeah,
where we can like go, money, do. I think that's part of our evolution as humans is to manifest like that.
yeah,
There's a gestation period and we've got to move our meat suits. Like we're physical beings. So we've got to move our bodies and
yeah,
take action in alignment with it. So I think it's like once you understand that, you know what? I'm just not yet a match for that goal. And that's all that's happening. So the whole purpose of the goal is to grow. I've got to grow some more. I've got to like maintain this frequency to be a match. And so there's nothing wrong here. It's
yeah,
coming in due time.
yeah. And it's kind of exciting, right? Because it's like we're growing into something.
Well, it's not like what's the freaking point?
Yeah,
Like we're here to grow and to experience and to like I mean, honestly, if you just asked for all the things and it just arrived, would you not get so bored?
yeah.
Like it's in the pursuit, it's in the growth.
So I love this because something that it's an idea that I resonate with a lot is this whole thing of what is so alluring to a limitless being, a limited experience. And we talk about how we're all the divine, right? And that we've come here to have these experiences and learn these lessons. And it makes me think about being a kid and playing video games, right? I know these old video games used to be able to get the cheat codes, and you would get the cheat codes and you could have, infinite money and infinite lives, like nothing bad can happen to you. Well, it seemed like the greatest thing ever, but when you put that in, it actually wasn't that fun. You play for like an hour and then, you get bored, because what's actually fun and engaging is all of the challenges and overcoming all of these things.
So good. That's such a good analogy. I didn't know they had cheek.
Oh yeah, like SimCity and like StarCraft and all these things when I was a kid. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just got
And
bored of it.
it was so boring. And I obviously didn't have the awareness that, but I remember as a kid, because it seemed like it was like, oh, like this person told me the cheat codes. It was this big deal, but it actually isn't fun. It's like when you're, in this one game where you're like battling and they just can't defeat you. Like basically, it's not fun. Like what's fun is when they come in and half destroy your base, and then you're like, oh no, like I better be strategic and I better rebuild, and what am I going to do? And I've got to manage my resources and stuff. And you could do that for 3 hours and not be disengaged, right? And it would be so boring when you used all the cheat codes.
That is so good. That's so good. Like, it's exactly true.
Oh, like,
Like, and we don't learn when things are easy. You know, Bob used to really like he'd go hard on us when things were too good. Like not in a like too good to be true way, but he's like, you're comfortable.
yes, yeah.
Get
And so what's the
uncomfortable.
guidance around?
Well, get uncomfortable. Go after something bigger. It's keep dreaming. Add something to your list. Go out and be something that like go be someone that you're not.
Yeah, yeah,
Because if not, you'll attract something that like maybe that you don't totally desire, right? Because the whole purpose is the growth. So
yeah. And it's interesting. You said this to me about like what's the next goal right away, and I recognize that I talk about that in my dance career, right? I came home and I had these goals to as a choreographer to basically win or get these awards at these big American competitions. And I thought it was going to take me years, and I did it in 2, and then that was it. And I didn't set any more goals. And
yeah.
with what I know now, I'm sure it would have been different. But which is why I often say, if I knew what I knew, I could be successful in any industry, right? And that's why they're universal laws.
Yeah.
But I don't think I believed that I could have anything more than that or go to that next level. And so I didn't set more goals, and it was just kind of like this fizzling from there. And it's something that I've recognized that like, yeah, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? And not in a chasing way, but in an expanding way.
Yeah. And that, like, in order to do that, there's so many societal paradigms and beliefs that we have to move through because, like, even as you say that, I can hear my grandparents' voice going, wow, can't you be satisfied with what you got? Like, you've
Yeah.
done enough, you've achieved enough.
Yeah.
And that's everywhere. It's
Yeah.
like you've hit a goal, like, well, can't I just like kind of settle here a
Right.
little bit? And no. No.
Oh,
No, because here's the thing, if you cannot stay the same.
yeah.
That's a law.
Yeah.
So you're either growing or you're dying.
I talk about this too.
And so if you are just taking what might feel like a breather, you're going backwards.
Yeah.
There's no other way. And so if you recognize that, it's like, shit,
Yeah.
I've gotta,
And so I think it's important here to bring in, because I think people's minds, when they hear that, sometimes like we've had all this conditioning around grinding and hustling, and it's like, oh my goodness, right?
yeah.
And so it's like, but we're actually talking about doing this with a lot of spaciousness. Like that was something too for me when I got here. I was like I'm in dull mode lately, and you were like, no, the first weekend, we're just going to take space. We're just going to be in bliss. We're just going to do whatever we feel like doing. And I definitely felt resistance, which actually surprised me, because it was a time that I was living in that, funnily enough, the time I was at, peak success. And yeah, I think we often have this binary, this association between I've got to push and I've got to grind and it's got to be hard in order to be in that expansion. But it's not that at all, is it?
Force negates. We talked about that before. So anytime that you feel like you're forcing, stop, because it's not the way.
Yeah.
And the hustle, the go, go, go is actually just a distraction. I love Napoleon Hill's book, Winning the Devil, and he talks about how like this idea of constantly going is like what you were programmed to believe that that's the way. It's not true.
Yeah.
Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich says if you think hard work gets you success, perish the thought. It's a lie. Gets you money. It's a lie. It's a lie. It's not true. So what is true? Well, the truth is that you live in harmony with the desire. You move through life looking for the opportunities or being aware of the opportunities when they come to you, that in the moment, there's an opportunity for growth. And the truth is, every single day that we have, there's opportunities for growth. There's opportunities for growth for communication between you and I. There's opportunities for growth with how you can show up on this podcast, for example. So leaning into those opportunities is what makes a difference. And then making sure that you're following your joy, you're following intuition. And so you'll be guided when you are operating on the frequency up here and seeing the world from that goal place to the best of your ability throughout the day. You're like slowing down. So Bob used to say, slow down to speed up. You're like connected. You're intentional. You're going to receive guidance, and it might not be very logical. It might be like, oh my gosh, it's 2:00 and I have a meeting at 4, but I feel like going to the beach.
Yeah.
And you'll fight yourself. It like doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And then you made a commitment to yourself that you're going to trust the hunches that you receive, and you take your bike and you go to the beach. And at that beach, you meet your, I don't know, next client or something happens. This is what we call working smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
Because the old way that I used to work would be like meeting, hustle, 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 hustle. There was like no moment for me to like even like get a breath, let alone hear hunches.
Yeah.
And so I did lots of that in like whatever energy I was at, and it got the results I got, and they weren't very favorable. I slow down. I raise my frequency. I take the action because it's in the energy from that goal achieved self. So the energy behind the action matters more than anything.
Yeah.
And you live life the way that you want, and it's joyful and blissful.
Yeah.
There's no have tos.
So good.
She's in business.
It's so good. And I have so many experiences like that as well, where when I honor that, it's like there's this day and there's all this work that needs to get done. And I'll get this, intuition to call a friend for lunch. And I had that not that long ago. And then the next thing the one thing led to another. And then I was on this yacht channeling for this guy privately. And it's like, that's exactly what I'd be doing, but it came from exactly that, following this intuition, divine insight to lunch in the middle of a work day. When my logical mind was like, no, absolutely not. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And here's the thing. There's no have tos. Like all the appointments that you have, all the things, like very rarely does it have to be done by a certain time or day. Like we put that on.
Yeah.
And so because you believe that it's a have to, it is true that it is a have to. What if it's not, and you let go of that belief?
Yeah. Well, and it's so interesting. Like I have recognized deeply in doing this work that the field can reorganize so quickly when we're holding a clear intention and we're really holding that frequency. And what I'm just connecting as you're talking about this with the meeting is that you're actually not giving the path of least resistance the opportunity to find you, because you are in resistance.
And you think you know the way.
Yeah.
So you're acting in your physical body going like, I'm going to make this happen and like have this meeting because this is the way to the success. And God, universe is like, okay, like freaking like do it all by hand.
Yeah.
But if you just like let go and let God, it's like it's a totally different mathematical equation. Does that make sense? To success. It's like, but it's in our ignorance that we think we've got to physically do all the things.
Yeah.
Not true.
Totally.
Not true. Now, I want to say something though, because the opposite. So some people can be listening to us and say, okay, okay, so what? I just like sit back and go to the beach and, go to lunch with friends. That's also not the truth. There are some actions within the business that you need to do. Like I
Yeah.
do webinars, we do these podcasts. Like there are some things that you do, and it's getting connected to that and asking yourself, do I love to do it? And if I don't love to do it and it's a non-negotiable in my business, who can I delegate and train to do it?
Yeah.
Right. So it's like not that we just sit back here and go, ah, like I just, go to the beach all day. That also doesn't work. And that I think has got confused in our industry.
Yes. Hugely. I
Yeah.
think a lot of things have gotten confused in our industry.
Anyway.
So one thing I know, one thing that's been really interesting listening to these old recordings of Bob
Yeah.
with you, or I don't actually know how old they are,
Yeah.
is how much spirituality is in it and how much we're talking about divine intelligence and all of these things. And I know this has been a huge thing for me and a huge thing for you that we've obviously connected over. And I know it's a very exciting season because we're adding Mystic to Millionaire Money Mentor. And so can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, Bob definitely had a lot of spirituality in his programs, but it was hidden
Yeah.
because of when he
It was a different
it
time.
was a different time. And
Yeah.
I was saying to you, like, I mean, these people, these leaders in our industry that walked before us I'm so grateful because they had to hide
Yeah.
like the laws buried in all this like kind of business logical talk, but we get to be out here and, really speak about it.
Yeah.
He
The truth.
couldn't, he couldn't.
Yeah.
But the more that you are aware and become conscious, the programs don't change. They stay the same. They were
Yeah.
recorded in the 70s, some of them. But as I become more aware, I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's what Bob meant. On the surface, it sounds so simple, but like behind it, you can really see what he's explaining. So I'm so grateful for Bob and all he needed to like walk through to really break down the barriers to get
Yeah.
us here today. But yeah, so I'm embracing the mysticism. And it's not new for me. I mean, I
No,
traveled
I
to
see that
India.
very clearly. Yeah.
Yeah, I traveled to India when I was 19, um, to meet the Dalai Lama and did a 10-day silent meditation retreat. Like I this is not new, and you wouldn't necessarily see it out there for me because it wasn't something that I was openly talking about, and it's like it's so true for me that I can't hold it back. So, yeah, we're moving into the mystic season of what
Amazing.
it means
The
to
season of the
be.
Mystic
That's
Millionaire.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah. It's amazing.
And yeah,
So excited. How
exciting and
many
a little.
millionaires have you created so far?
So far there's been 27. We're about to hit 29, I believe. There's 2 coming up on
Right.
their first $100,000 month. So we say the first step is 100, like 88,000, about 83,000. We say we like numbers, so 88, and we round it up to 100,000. So that's our first like milestone that we
Yeah.
celebrate, and then we celebrate that for 12 consecutive months. So that means that they earn 1,000,000 in 12 consecutive months. It might now be a calendar year, and then
Yeah.
from there we celebrate their calendar year. So
Amazing.
yeah, so 29.
Amazing. And how many Mystic Millionaires are you planning?
111 by the end of 2025. So, we're on a mission to find those people who are ready to declare it.
Very cool. Well, I cannot recommend that anybody that is interested in Danielle's work, that is ready for expansion around money and really its identity, right? To be in their just this expansive version of themselves that is abundant and is in the possibilities and the full expression of who they came here to be. You absolutely must find Danielle because she is the queen. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.